Hello, let's go over what we're going to do Friday, where we're going to create a virtual studio. Let's take a look at the calendar and make sure we're on top of how to find that. These lines at the top here, you can use those in Google Classroom to expose other elements such as our calendar. And if we go to that and we look on Friday, we'll see what you're going to do is work on a virtual studio. That term means two different things in the class. So let's take a look at the instructions and make sure we know which one we're after today. There's a PowerPoint you can go through at your own pace, which is going to describe two different types of studios. If I say the word studio, you might think of an area where somebody does sculpting or painting, where they have a model in the center of it, and you might use it as a reference image to create your interpretation of it. That's one type of studio that we're going to do later. The part we're talking about right now is a studio that's set up to highlight your work. It's akin to a photography studio. In fact, we're going to put a camera and lights into our scene to make sure that we get more control over what our rendition looks like. So the one on the left would be what it looks like in 3ds Max for that reference for modeling. The one on the right is an example of what we're going to do today. So in the virtual studio, there's a number of considerations that we talk about in detail. They're outlined on the slides. You can read them as easily as I can read them to you. And here's an overview of the process that you're going to go through today. Now, I'm not going to say step one through, whatever to walk you through the process. I'm going to equip you with the opportunity to choose one of many different processes, any one of which will yield you with the effect that you're looking for. Here's some examples of either a virtual studio setup in 3ds Max or the result of it. And as a reminder, the teapot is a primitive. It's a great way to show off a material similar to the material sphere that we used on Monday as we dive into materials. This is a sample of a studio here that's basically a line was drawn and then extruded, which created a backsplash or a background for our scene. And as long as we position it off of that center point of our world, we can then put our whatever interesting model we might have, we could actually put it using import merge. We could put it there and then render from within this space. So it's kind of a build it once and use it multiple times. In that example that we're just highlighting on the screen here, let me maximize it for you. This might be an example of a render from it. And you don't know from a rendition what was set up behind it. So it's kind of a peek behind the curtain, so to speak, to see how these things are put together. Here's another rendition, and this one was done using a slightly different process. And this one illustrates a concept of using a longer backsplash and using multiple cameras so that you could select from a camera a different area in your virtual museum and show off your work in different ways. There's like a behind the scenes view of what this world looks like. Both of these samples are on the game programming drive. I want you to go through a video and create your own. It may end up looking similar to this. It may end up looking radically different because, again, I'm giving you 3 different processes. I'm only throwing 2 of them out here as examples. Just be mindful that the type of studio we're creating right now is not a modeling studio. That's a separate project, but I want you to follow one of these that's linked in the Google Classroom to create your studio. When you get into the next part about reference, that's another project. It happens to be in the same PowerPoint. All right, there's a pretty clear explanation, I hope, in the actual Google Classroom assignment. Once you watch this video, pick one of those videos and start down the path. Once you've got your virtual studio working with my help and support as needed, I want you to bring in different elements that you've created, i.e. maybe your tank, the arches, some of the other, the bicycle seat, things like that. Bring those in and render your scenes out so that you've got them for your portfolio. That's the main activity for the day. I hope it goes well, but remember, be resourceful. Use each other, use help, use Google if you need to, use me, I'm here, but try. It's through this button time that you're really going to experience what it takes to create these objects. I also noticed that the YouTube content that I've got out there, a variety of them, can be watched, stopped, replayed, run back, watch double speed if it's a review, slow it down to half speed if I'm too fast. Be resourceful and articulate your questions so I can position you for success. Hope you have fun, because these admiration days on Fridays are all about taking what we studied throughout the week and putting together our best work for our portfolio. And this week was about materials. So you could use physical materials, you could use the ray trace materials, you could use any one of the other materials that you might find as standard architectural materials and use those in the scenes for your modeling. All right, thanks.